Apple just released their new Final Cut Pro camera app, which is a pro video centered camera app that I've been waiting to check out for a few months now since they announced it. Today we're gonna take a look at it.
Resume is a heavyweight, yeah. Put it on my back, give me everything, yeah. I need everything, I need all of everything, yeah.
All right, let's take a little tour around this app and see what Apple's given us here. So up top, we have a few different tabs. The first tab on the left is going over the new live multicam feature in this app, which is, in Apple's eyes, probably the big thing here, where you could sync up other iPhones and iPads running the Final Cut Pro camera app. That's not what I'm reviewing this camera app for. For me, it's the pro features and the fact that it's coming straight from Apple. The next tab over is where you could choose your shooting options, and for the Final Cut app, we only have two options, Apple ProRes and H.265. And in H.265, you can't record Apple Log at 4K 60 internally like you can on the Blackmagic app and a couple other apps out there, which was disappointing. I thought maybe with this specific app, because Apple knows that, hey, Blackmagic has kind of exposed that it's extremely possible not only to record log in H.265, but also that you can record ProRes or any other format in log at 4K 60 internally and not need to plug something in. I'm kind of over the whole plugging into the USB-C port, so for me, if I'm shooting 4K 60, it's gonna be on the Blackmagic app in Apple Log, or I'm just gonna shoot it in SDR on the stock camera app, or maybe now the new Final Cut Pro app. Next to that is where you could choose between SDR, which is Rec 709, HDR, which is something I will never shoot with. I do not like HDR, HLG, just not a fan, and Log, of course. Then we have a choice between 1080p and 4K. I think the majority of us are gonna wanna shoot 4K. And then our frame rates, we could choose between 24, 25, 30, and 60 frames per second. Then we have a tiny little box here with an hourglass, and mine says 38 minutes. That means that I have 38 minutes of record time remaining in the settings that it's in. And if I switch to non-ProRes, from ProRes to H.265, 25 hours. So from 38 minutes in ProRes to H.265, 25 hours of video. That's how badly we need something in the middle there. ProRes LT, maybe, or just let us shoot log in H.265. Apple, you giveth and you taketh away. We also have a tiny little audio meter here, which you can't really see much on it. It's very small and it's not interactive, so whatever, it's there. On the bottom here, we could choose between our different cameras, 13mm, 24mm, 120mm, and obviously the selfie camera. Next to your lens options is a little digital zoom slider, which I don't know how often I'll be using that. Then we have our manual controls. We have white balance, which we can just leave on auto. We could set it manually to the Kelvin that we want, or there's little presets here, daylight, shadow, cloudy, tungsten, fluorescent, and flash. Then we have our exposure settings, which again, you could leave in automatic, or you could switch over to manual. Now, the one problem that I can see is just pretty much impossible to do with the iPhone at this point is to lock your shutter speed, but keep your ISO on auto. You don't get that option in any app that I know of so far. It's either auto for both or manual for both. So it is what it is. We also have the option to be in autofocus or manual focus, which is great. And last but not least is the orientation. You can lock the orientation in any direction that you want here, or you could just leave it unlocked. Now heading back up top, there's a little settings tab here, and really it's very vanilla, very plain. There's not much here. You can basically switch your Kodak, your format, and your shooting options the same way you can on your screen without having to go into the settings app. Only difference is you can turn on and off stabilization, which I think is pretty cool. If you're using a gimbal, you might not want stabilization on, and you can mirror your front camera. Then there's another tab over where it says tools. You could turn on and off your grid, or you could have an aspect ratio guide. Then we have an overexposure indicator and focus peaking options, which are cool also. And then we have our audio source. So if you have an external microphone like the Hollyland Lark M2 that I have on my camera here, which I'll put on my camera right now because we're gonna go outside and test out the stabilization, then you could just choose in this menu whether you wanna use the microphone on board the iPhone or your external microphone. Get some test shots, but before we do that, a big quick shout out to today's sponsor, You know who it is, Artlist. It's not only for this channel that I turn to Artlist, I turn to Artlist for everything. Sound effects, music, client music, anytime I'm shooting any type of real estate property, weddings, events, anything like that, I'm always on Artlist, and a lot of times I'll gather up a bunch of songs, throw them into a collection, send that group over to the client, and let them pick what song they like the best. And then for my sound designs for whooshes and speed ramps and stuff like that, Artlist has a huge section. I don't even know, I should know this, but it's probably uncountable at this point how many sound effects Artlist has to download out there. It's just pretty much any sound you could think of, including farts. Just this week, I'm not kidding, I was in an area in New Jersey that was about a mile from an airport, and I didn't know this area, and I was shooting a property for a client, and I couldn't get my drone off the ground. And this was on like the first hot day of the year. If you live here on the East Coast, you know how damn hot it's been this past week. And it was about 102 degrees where I was. And I was sitting there gushing sweat, trying to get this drone up in the air so I can get aerial shots and a view of the area, and I couldn't do it. The airport wouldn't let me off the ground. I couldn't type in any type of access code. It was one of the few times that I've not been able to get my drone off. But I got lucky because Artlist offers high quality stock video, and I was able to fill in the blank spots in my project that I wasn't able to get with my drone. So that helped a lot. Thank you, Artlist, for that. For me, I've been using Artlist so long because I find them reliable way before they were ever a sponsor of this channel, and they become a part of my workflow. Just like shooting in log on my camera and all my camera settings and my lighting setups, Artlist is just another piece in that group that just belongs because it helps me create and get the job done. Right now, Artlist has a free trial going on, so you can go in there, check it out risk-free. And if you use the special link in the description below and decide to actually purchase a plan, Artlist is gonna add 2 free months onto a paid active subscription. So if you decide to join up, they're gonna toss you an extra couple of months there, no charge. Not bad. As always, thank you to Artlist for sponsoring today's video. Let's head outside and get these test shots. Okay, so we can shoot 4K 60 in Apple ProRes Log without a external hard drive or SSD connected on the front-facing camera, but we can't do it on the rear camera. So right now we're recording 4K 60 Apple Log to the internal storage on the front-facing camera. This is 4K 6, that's weird. All right, the first thing I wanna check out is the stabilization. So we're gonna do 3 different tests. 1 in full auto, 1 in full manual. Got my variable ND filter here. And then we're gonna see what it looks like compared to the stock camera app. Here's full manual now. It's kinda hard to nail exposure when you're filming yourself on the rear main camera. And here's the stock camera app. I was able to check out some of the shots on my way back here, and the image stabilization, at least on my phone screen, looked pretty good, even in full manual. So it didn't seem like that proper shutter speed really affected the image stabilization that much, which is good news. It's good sign, it's a good start. Something else that I like is on the stock camera app, I have the 15 Pro Max, which has the 5X telephoto camera. Now, sometimes I'll hit that 5X camera and just be a little too close, and instead of actually switching to the 5X camera, what it'll do is it'll use the 1X camera and then just digitally zoom into the equivalent of the 5X. And I'm like, what the hell is this? I don't want a 5 times punched in digital zoom. I want the 5X. Let me figure out if it's within the focus distance or the lighting is good enough to switch over to the well, that's not a problem. On the Final Cut camera app, once I hit that 5X tab, it goes into that 5X camera regardless. So it's not doing any type of foolery to where you don't really know exactly which camera is being selected here, even though you're telling it what you want. I always hated that. Now let's talk about some of the things that I'm not really fond of, or some of the lack of things that I'm not really fond of. Now, mind you, at the time of making this video, this is the first release of this app. So hopefully we get a little bit more of a polished version as updates come out. Number one, you can't preserve your settings. So with the stock camera app, if you go into your actual settings and then find your camera settings and go in there, you can preserve all your entire setup, your frame rate, your resolution, Apple log, no Apple log, HDR, whatever you want, you can preserve it like that and then just have it stay like that. And every time you open your camera app, it'll go to those settings. Whereas the Final Cut app, every time I open it up, or sometimes now it just switched back, it goes from 24 frames a second to 30. Then I've had it set to log, and then when I close it out and open it back up again, it turns to SDR or HDR. I don't know if it's buggy. Also, I'm running iOS 18 beta on this phone along with it, so maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know if it really should. Both apps are from Apple. They should have been prepared for this. But yeah, there's no way to preserve your settings, and I don't like that. Another thing is a bug that I've come across where I open the app and we just get a black screen. There's nothing, just right now this should show my face because I'm behind the camera, but it doesn't show anything and it's just a black screen. And I can press record and it records, but it's not recording anything, see? Which brings me to my next point. Apple isn't really known for updating apps, their apps individually. Usually for iOS and iPadOS, the app updates come in the firmware update. You don't really go into your app store too often, I don't know if ever, and find an update for an app that is made by Apple. Maybe that's gonna change now. I hope so for the sake of this camera app, but we'll see. Also, when you want to get to your recordings, you can't find them in the Photos app. You have to go in the Final Cut app and then tap on the little thumbnail to where it shows your images would be, and then find the videos in there and then select them and then save them to your Photos app. But then the problem is it makes a duplicate. There's two, unless you manually go into the Final Cut app and delete all your recordings. So with ProRes log and those file sizes, one video is gonna turn into two. That's double the gigabytes, and it's not a little bit of space, it's a lot of space. For me, the iPhone 15 Pro and Pro Max with the introduction of Apple log has kind of opened up a whole new world for me, because now I can confidently use my iPhone as an actual camera to get shots, to fill in with my normal content and mix it in with my Sony cameras, and like 95% of the people wouldn't know the difference if you know how to color grade properly and kind of match those colors up and just make the footage look really good. It doesn't look smartphone-y. But at the same time, I still like the quickness of it. All these tools come together with the quickness of being able to just pull it out of my pocket, get the shot, get high quality log footage, and still not really have to fiddle around with anything on the screen before I get my shot. My best option for shooting video right now is actually the Blackmagic camera app, but still in full auto, just using Apple log and shooting in something like ProRes LT or even H.265 to save some storage on my phone. I'm drifting here. Bottom line is, I don't know if I'll be using this Final Cut app right now as how it stands, because there's better options out there. And honestly, if it came down to just the stock camera app and shooting in ProRes log in there, or the Final Cut app, I'm probably just gonna use the stock camera app and just go full auto and let the camera do what it do and get the shots that I need without having to think about anything. Let me know what you guys think down below. Has anybody out there actually downloaded the Final Cut app? If not, I mean, it's free. Go download it, try it out, play around, see if you like it, see if it works for you. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you all. This has sponsored today's video. Thumbs up, subscribe, all that good stuff. I will talk to you guys later. Salute.